Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. Today I'm going to recap last night's college basketball, NBA, and NHL games, look ahead to everything tonight, news and notes, NFL power rankings, the final one post-regular season, and my best bet of the day. We're going to start with college basketball. We will recap the games from yesterday and look ahead to a busy window for tonight. Canisius over Quinnipiac, 79-67. Iona over Fairfield, 80-76. Stanford upsets number 5 USC, 75-69. Towson over Hofstra, 78-66. Number 22 Tennessee over South Carolina, 66-46. Penn State over Rutgers, 66-49. Number 19 Texas Tech upsets number 1 Baylor, 65-62. Number 18 Kentucky defeats Vanderbilt, 78-66. Marquette over DePaul, 76. Syracuse over Pitt, 77-61. North Alabama over Eastern Kentucky, 76-75. Liberty over North Florida, 71-56. Jacksonville State over Lipscomb, 88-83. Jacksonville over Stetson, 57-50. Bellarmine over Central Arkansas, 85-63. St. Bonaventure over LaSalle, 80-76 in overtime. VCU over George Washington, 84-57. Dayton over St. Louis, 68-63. Davidson over UMass, 77-67. James Madison over Northeastern, 89-66. Drexel loses at home to Delaware, 81-77. Akron over Ball State, 84-74. Ohio over Bowling Green, 85-78. Northern Illinois over Kent State, 65-63. Buffalo over Western Michigan, 78-64. Toledo over Miami of Ohio, 75-72. Eastern Michigan over Central Michigan, 98-68. Stephen F. Austin over Texas Rio Grande, 86-75. Number 9 Kansas over number 15 Iowa State, 62-61. New Orleans over Dillard, 93-66. UMKC over Baptist, 98-57. Florida State over Miami, 65-64. Northern Iowa over Indiana State, 80-74 in overtime. Number 21 Texas over Oklahoma, 66-52. Number 25 Illinois over Nebraska, 81-71. Texas A&M over Ole Miss, 67-51. Number 4 Auburn over number 24 Alabama, 81-77. West Virginia over Oklahoma State, 70-60. So best bet now 7-0 in 2022. Loyola Chicago over Valparaiso, 81-74 in double overtime. Fresno State over San Jose State, 79-59. And UNLV over New Mexico, 85-56. Now we look ahead to a busy window for tonight. 5 o'clock, we could just skip this one. Art Baptist and McNeese. At 6 o'clock or 6:30 on Fox Sports 1. Villanova and Xavier. My projection is Xavier favored by 1 7/8. And the line is Xavier by 1, total 140. I'll go over the total. Longwood Radford. My projection is Longwood by 2 7/8, and it's 2.5 and 133 3.5. I'll go with another over. 7 o'clock on the ACC Network. Number 8 Duke and Wake Forest. My projection is Duke by 9, and it is Duke by 5.5, total 151.5. I'll lay the 5.5 with Duke. Minnesota at number 10, Michigan State on the Big Ten Network. My projection is Michigan State by 14.5. And it's 11.5 and 138.5. I'll lay the points at Sparty. Number 12, LSU, Florida on ESPN2. My projection is LSU by 3 5/8. And it's Florida by 2, total 138. Is this Vegas knows? I don't know. But I'm taking LSU plus the 2 and plus 112 to win straight up. ESPNU, Temple, Tulsa. My projection is Tulsa by 3. And it's 3.5 and 133. I'll take the under. Memphis and UCF. My projection is Memphis by 1 3/8. And it's 1.5 and 149. I'll go over. East Carolina and Cincinnati. My projection is Cincy by 11. And Cincy is giving 10.5, total 141.5. I'll take the under. Tennessee Martin, Morehead State. My projection is Morehead by 18. And it is 13.5 and 139.5. I'm going to lay the points with Morehead State. Hampton and NCAT. I have as a projection NCAT by 11 3/4. and it's 8.5 and 135.5. I'll lay the points at NCAT. Presbyterian and Gardner Webb, my projection is Webb by 8 3/4, and it's 7.5 and 130.5. I'll go over. Charleston Southern and Campbell, my projection is Campbell by 22 and 1/8. I'm reading the fraction of the line rather than the whole number of the line. And Campbell is laying 15.5 total, 139.5. I'll lay the points. Clemson and Notre Dame, my projection is Notre Dame by 6 3/8. And Notre Dame is a 2.5 point favorite, total 138.5. I'll lay the points at Notre Dame. Stony Brook and Vermont, my projection is Vermont 5 1/8. And it's 11 and 142.5. I like Stony Brook getting all the points. I think that's a good call. UMass Lowell and Albany. My projection is UMass Lowell by 4 1/8. I almost said a quarter. And it is 2.5 and 133.5. It's not enough to lay the points with Lowell. So I'm going to go over with this pick. UMBC and NJIT. My projection is NJIT by 1/8. And it is 1 and 140. I'm going to go under the total. Maine and New Hampshire. My projection is New Hampshire by 17. And it is, let's see, Maine and New Hampshire. I don't see a lineup for this game. Maine, New Hampshire. Here we go, 14 and 126.5. I'm going to lay the 14 with New Hampshire. St. Joe's and Rhode Island. My projection is Rhode Island by 10. And Rhode Island is giving 9. Total 142. I'll go over. Duquesne, Fordham. My projection is Fordham by 1. And it's Duquesne by 3. Total 134.5. I'll take Fordham plus a 3 and plus 128 to win outright. Chattanooga and Western Carolina. My projection is Chattanooga by 15 3/4. And it's 12 and 150. I'm laying the 12 with Chattanooga. Sanford, Wofford. My projection is Wofford 4.5. It's Wofford by 8. Total 145. I'm taking Sanford getting 8. East Tennessee State and Furman. My projection is Furman 5.5. And it's 9 and 144.5. I'll take East Tennessee State plus the 9. Elon and UNC Wilmington. My projection is Wilmington by 4 7/8. And it is 1.5 and 138.5. I'm laying the 1.5 in UNC Wilmington. Love it. Georgia State and Mississippi State. My projection is Mississippi State by 15 and 7/8. And this game's on the SEC Network. And Miss State is giving 14.5 total 143. Not low enough to bet Miss State. I'm going to go over. 7:30 Delaware State and Norfolk State. My projection is Norfolk by 26 3/4. And it is 20.5 and 137.5. I'll lay the 20.5 at Norfolk. High Point FC Upstate. My projection is High Point by 2.5, and it's 3.5 and 133.5. I'll go over. 8 o'clock Utah State and Colorado State on CBS Sports Network. My projection is Colorado State by 11 and 3/8. And it's 5.5 and 149.5. I'll lay the points of Colorado State. Tulane and Wichita State. My projection is Wichita by 12 and 3/8. And it is 9.5 and 138. I'll lay the 9.5 with Wichita. South Florida and SMU. My projection is SMU by 16 and 1/8. And it's 15 and 132.5. I'll go over. Southern Illinois and Missouri State. My projection is Missouri State by 5 and 3/8. And it's 7.5 and 131.5. It's high enough for me to take Southern Illinois in the points, so I'm going to do that. Illinois State Drake. My projection is Drake by a whopping 20 and 1/8. And it's 12 and 144. I'll lay the points with Drake. Evansville Bradley. My projection is Bradley by 7 1/4. And it's 8.5 and 128.5. Not high enough to bet Evansville, but I'm going to go with the under. 8:30 Fox Sports 1 St. John's UConn. My projection is UConn by 7 and 7/8. And it's 11 and 150. I'm taking St. John's in the points. 9 o'clock ACC Network. NC State Louisville. My projection is Louisville by 11 and 1/8. And it is 6 and 144.5. I'm laying the 6 at Louisville. Virginia Tech and Virginia. My projection is Virginia by 6 and 5/8. And Virginia is giving 1.5 total, 118.5. I'm laying the points of Virginia. Georgia Tech and Boston College. My projection is Georgia Tech by 1 and 3/8. And it's BC by 2 total, 133. I'm taking Georgia Tech plus the 2 and plus 112 to win outright. By the way, Virginia Tech is on ESPN2. ESPNU, TCU, Kansas State. My projection is TCU by 2 1/4, and it's Kansas State by 4 total, 136. I'm taking TCU plus the 4 and plus 140 to win outright. Missouri and Arkansas. My projection is Arkansas by 15 and 1/8, and it's 13.5 and 131. Not low enough to bet Arkansas. I'm going over the total. And that game is on the SEC Network. Big Ten Network, Maryland and Northwestern. My projection is Maryland by 1 3/4. And it's Northwestern by 6 total, 141. I'm taking Maryland plus the 6 and plus 205 on the money line. 10 o'clock, Santa Clara and Pacific. My projection is Santa Clara by 8.5. And it's 5.5 and 141.5. I'm laying the points of Santa Clara. Cal Washington on the Pac-12 Network. My projection is Washington by 2 and 3/8. And it's 1 and 133. I'm going over. Dixie State and Cal Baptist. My projection is Cal Baptist by 14, and it's 9 and 152. I'm laying the 9 with Cal. Utah Valley and Seattle. My projection is Seattle by 7/8. And it's 1.5 and 140. I'm going to go over the total. And Boise State and Nevada. 10:30 on Fox Sports 1. My projection is Nevada by 2 1/4. And it's essentially a pick'em. But Boise State, I'd say, is a half-point favorite according to this money line. They're minus 111. Nevada's minus 108. Total's 142.5. I'm taking Nevada money line at minus 108 as my pick for this game. All right, now I'll move on to the NBA. We will recap the games from last night, and we will look ahead to a busy window for tonight. Wizards over the Thunder 122-118. Wiz 21-20. OKC 13-27. Suns over the Raptors 99-95. Phoenix 31-9. Best record in the league. Toronto 20-18. Grizz over the Warriors 116-108. Grizz 29-14. Golden State 30-10. Pelicans over the Timberwolves 128-125. New Orleans 15-26. Minnesota 20-21. Bulls over the Pistons 133-87. The Bulls 27-11. Detroit 9-31. And the Clippers over the Nuggets 87-85. The Clippers 21-21. Denver 20-19. Now we look to tonight, 7 o'clock. You have the Celtics and the Pacers. My projection for this game is Boston by 1.5. I do totals. And it is 3 and 210.5. I'll take the under. Hornets 76ers. My projection is 76ers by 4. It is 5.5. And the total is 226.5. I'll go. That's a tough one. I'm going to go under. Don't feel good about it. Magic Wizards. My projection is Washington by 13.25. And it's 6 and 215. I'm laying the 6 with the Wiz, even though Bradley Beal's not playing. 7:30 Heat Hawks. My projection is Atlanta by 5 and 5/8. And it's 2.5 and 223.5. I'm going to lay the 2.5 with the Hawks. I really like that pick. 7:30 on ESPN. The Mavericks at the Knicks. This was supposed to be Porzingis back at MSG. But he's not playing. And because of that, I project the Knicks as a 1 and 7/8 favorite over Dallas. Meanwhile, Dallas is a 3-point favorite, total 206.5. This is solely because Luka Doncic plays for the Mavericks. Give me the Knicks +3, and I think they're going to win outright, +130, +130. Plus the 130 to win the game outright. I'm trying to find the list of the announcers. And I really can't find it. Yeah, here we go. I would have guessed Mike Breen and either Doris Burke or Hubie Brown or even Jeff Van Gundy for this one. And Brooklyn, Chicago should be Mike Breen, but you know how ESPN is with favoritism towards the announcers. Rockets Spurs at 8:30. My projection is San Antonio by 6 3/4, and it's 6 and 232. I'll go under because San Antonio's missing some pieces. 9 o'clock, Cavs Jazz. My projection is Utah by 8 and 5/8, and it is 5.5 and 223.5. I'll lay the points with Jazz fans. No Rudy Gobert. Surprised that game didn't get a look for ESPN. The Cavs deserve to be on. And then 10 o'clock, ESPN Nets Bulls. The Bulls are favored by 1 3/4, and it's 1.5 and 232.5. It's another high total. I understand Kyrie's playing. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait. James Harden, I think, is back. I really wish the Nets were favored just so I could take the Bulls as a potential home dog. But they're favored, and the total's that high. Ooh, I kind of like the under because I think that the Bulls' defense will step up. If I had to guess the announcers for each game, I'm going to say it's Mike Breen and Doris Burke for the Knicks game, and for the Bulls game, I'm going to say it's Dave Pasch and Jeff Van Gundy. And then they only would do that because they flipped the announcers because of Mike Breen with the Knicks. So let's see here. Mike Breen is calling Golden... Oh, wait, no. Ryan Rucco, Doris Burke for the Knicks, and then Dave Pasch, Mark Jackson for the Bulls. Mike Breen's calling Golden State, Chicago Friday night with Jeff Van Gundy, which is good. And then Friday night, Cap, Dallas, Memphis is Mark Jones and Richard Jefferson. So Mike Breen's probably on MSG tonight, which is interesting. So Ryan Rucco called their game on Christmas, too. So Ryan Rucco's good. I like Ryan Rucco. I was right about Doris Burke being on that game, though. So, yeah, I just wanted to see who the announcers were for tonight for those games. And, by the way, Ryan Rucco is the Brooklyn Nets backup play-by-play voice. So you would think they might give the Nets a little favoritism by putting Ryan Ruocco there, but they didn't. But the favoritism you see all the time with the announcers is Mike Breen doing Knicks games or Troy Aikman doing Cowboys and football. But yeah, enough announcer talk. Let's do the last game. Lakers Kings. My projection is Lakers by 1 1/8, and their favorite by 3 total is 231.5. If the Lakers go up the 3.5, I'll bet Sacramento. But I like the under 231.5 in this game because of no Anthony Davis. All right, now I'll move on to the NHL. We will recap the games from last night, and we will look ahead to the games for tonight. Lightning over the Sabres 6-1. Lightning 24-9-5. Buffalo 10-19-6. Panthers over the Canucks 5-2. Panthers 24-7-5. Vancouver 16-16-3. That's probably their worst loss under Bruce Boudreau so far. Blackhawks over the Blue Jackets 4-2. Chicago 13-18-5. Columbus 16-17-1. Preds over the Avalanche 5-4 in overtime on a game winner by Matt Duchene. Nashville 24-11-2. Colorado 22-8-3. Maple Leafs over the Golden Knights 4-3 in a shootout. Maple Leafs 23-8-3. 23-8-3. Vegas 23-14-2. Penguins over the Ducks 4-1. Pittsburgh 21-9-5. Anaheim 19-13-7. And the Sharks over the Red Wings 3-2 in overtime on a game winner by Logan Couture. San Jose goes to 20-16-1. Detroit 16-16-5. Tonight we only have 3 games. 7 o'clock on TNT. The Canadiens and the Bruins. You would think this would be Kenny Albert, Eddie Olczyk, right? I would say so, because there's no way they're doing a Coyotes game. Boston's minus 365. Montreal's plus 285 over under 6, minus 110 each way. Montreal plus 1/2, plus 110. Boston minus 1/2 is minus 134. We'll get to news and notes in a little while, because it's big news related to the Bruins that I want to discuss. But I'm going to go only because of the rivalry factor. I'm going to take Montreal plus the 1/2 and plus 110. No, I don't know if they're going to win, but I think that they will at least lose by 1 just because of the rivalry. 8:30, Kraken Stars. Stars minus 220, Kraken plus 180, over under 6, overs minus 108, unders minus 112. Seattle plus 1/2 is minus 144, Dallas minus 1/2 is plus 118. For this one, I'm going to go over 6, minus 108, and 10 o'clock on TNT, the Maple Leafs and the Coyotes. And by the way, Coyotes, no business on being on national TV. Kraken Stars should be the last game. Toronto minus 330, Arizona plus 260, over under 6, overs minus 118, unders minus 104. Toronto minus 1/2 is minus 118, Arizona plus 1/2 is minus 104. I'm going over 6 and minus 118 for my pick for this game. All right, news and notes time. If you want to hear reaction to the Giants firing Joe Judge, please listen to my last podcast I did, which features my friend Jeff Burns on the show as we react to the firing of Joe Judge. I assumed if we did it on today's show, it would have been 15 minutes on it. So if you want to listen to my reaction of the Giants firing Joe Judge, please listen to the previous episode number 1090, featuring my friend Jeff Burns. John Lester retires as the 38-year-old pitcher announcing he's calling it a career after 16 seasons and 3 World Series rings. Congrats to John Lester. He was one of the more underrated pitchers of his generation, in my opinion. And that guy was just a winner. Speaking of baseball, MLB and the Players Association to meet on Thursday for bargaining session this week. First time since the league locked out on players December 2nd. So that is great news for Major League Baseball. Hopefully it all goes well so we can get Major League Baseball back into our lives. Lions and Jets to coach the Senior Bowl, as those two staffs will serve in advisory capacity. Brian Flores and Doug Peterson will interview for the Bears head coaching position. Mike Tomlin missed Sunday Night Football ending. He admits he dozed off before seeing outcome of Chargers-Raiders. Probably better off not having watched it, says the Steelers head coach. Flyer scout wanted Cale McCarr and Bobby Clark, the scout, said that former GM and current Penguins GM Ron Hextall made some huge mistakes by drafting Nolan Patrick back in 2017. Evgeny Malkin, speaking of the Penguins, returned last night with a 3-point game. So welcome back, Evgeny Malkin. Barry Trotz and Ryan Pollock in COVID-19 protocol, not good for the Islanders. Tuukka Rask, 1-year Bruins deal as he's back with the Bruins, 1 year, $1 million. And Bud Light offers Tuukka a deal as the Bud Light Twitter account has some terms for Rask in this very official contract, which is funny. Nick Lidstrom joins Red Wings hockey operations as the team's vice president of hockey operations, so he'll be working with Steve Yzerman in that front office. Knicks eyeing Cam Reddish in terms of a trade pickup. 76ers trying to trade Tobias Harris and attach him in a Ben Simmons trade, which doesn't surprise me. Contavious Caldwell-Pope and Montrezl Harrell got into a fight at halftime as they had a physical altercation. Draymond Green out next 3 games as he's dealing with his calf injury. As Steve Kerr says, he's likely out. Sad news for Alabama wide receiver Jamison Williams. He tore his ACL in the game against Georgia 2 nights ago. Full recovery expected. He was a projected top 20 pick. So his draft stock's going to go down in result of this. That's really too bad. Williams was a great part of Alabama's offense this season, along with the running back Brian Robinson. So that really sucks for Williams. Hopefully he gets well soon. All right, now I'm going to do my NFL power rankings, my final one of the regular season. I am going to go over which teams had successful seasons, which teams have had failure seasons, and who is a TBD. And I will say what those teams have to do in order to make it a success. All right. 32 Giants, failure, duh. We talked about that a lot on the show last night. You could listen to how I feel about the Giants. 31 Jacksonville Jaguars, failure. Hire Urban Meyer, failure right away. Trevor Lawrence, disappointing rookie year. Number 30, Houston Texans, failure because they, A, didn't tank, and B, don't have a top 2 pick in the draft. Number 29, the New York Jets, failure. Yes, they showed progress at the end of the year, but this accounts for the whole season, not just a small portion. 28, the Detroit Lions, failure. They didn't get the number 1 overall pick. And Jared Goff's still their quarterback. 27, the Carolina Panthers, failure. Trade for Sam Darnold, hurt all the time, underachieving as a player. Chris McCaffrey, hurt. Matt Rule, not a good coach. 26, Atlanta Falcons, failure. Arthur Smith, not a great head coach in year 1. Matt Ryan, still around. Number 25, the Washington football team, failure. Did not make the playoffs after making it a year ago. A lot of injuries accounted for that as well. Number 24, the Chicago Bears, failure. Fired head coach, fired GM. Justin Fields barely played. Number 23, the Seattle Seahawks, failure. If you have Russell Wilson on your team, you don't make the playoffs, let alone well under 500, automatic failure. I know Wilson got hurt, but the team still sunk. 22, the Minnesota Vikings, failure, which led to the firings of head coach Mike Zimmer and GM oh my God, blanking on the GM, Rick Spielman, who just got fired. Number 21, the Denver Broncos, failure. We went in the what could have been on the 3-word phrase about why they were a failure, and that led to the firing of their head coach. Number 20, Cleveland Browns, failure. Baker Mayfield, I know, hurt throughout the year, but he really hasn't put it all together yet as a quarterback. And Kevin Stefanski could have been in play for the surprise name fired. Because it's still the Browns we're talking about here. Number 19, the Baltimore Ravens, failure. Finished under 500. John Harbaugh really had some ballsy decisions, and those ballsy decisions paired up with some injuries are why they're not in the postseason. Number 18, New Orleans Saints, failure. I understand injuries, but still, this is the New Orleans Saints. This is Sean Payton. They expect to be playoff teams every year. Number 17, the Miami Dolphins, failure. And even Stephen Ross thinks so too because he went and fired Brian Flores because of it. And they had expectations this year. Number 16, the Indianapolis Colts, failure. This is, I think, one of the bigger failures of the season because they trade for Carson Wentz, and that pick turned out to be a first-round pick because he played a majority of the snaps, and they still don't make the playoffs, and Carson Wentz was god-awful in what was the most important game of the year. Number 15, the Los Angeles Chargers, failure. This is the best team not in the playoffs. If you ask me, it's either them or the Colts. But Justin Herbert, still kind of erratic. As good as he is, he can still be very erratic. I said that he reminds me a lot of Eli Manning as a quarterback for that reason. The defense is awful, and I don't think Brandon Staley is a great head coach. Number 14, the Philadelphia Eagles, success. It has to be a success that the Eagles are in the playoffs. Everyone thought that this was a last-place team before the season. Nick Sirianni has to be up there for Coach of the Year, even though they tanked that last game against Dallas in a game which they're still playing for seeding, but they knew they were in the playoffs. That was just a really bad loss, though. Despite that really bad loss against Dallas in the last regular season game, Jalen Hurts showed some signs of growth. Maybe one or two really bad games all year. And they have a ton of draft picks. So you can't say the Eagles season was a failure. Maybe people in Philadelphia might think that because their fans are crazy and delusional and expect to go to the Super Bowl every year. Just like pretty much every other fan base in the NFC East, maybe except the Redskins or the football team. I'm sorry. And you just got to give Eagles a lot of credit. Number 13, the Pittsburgh Steelers. To be determined. This was a team that last year started undefeated and then fell to like the 3 seed, or is it the 2 seed in the AFC playoffs? And then they lost in the first round to the Browns. I'm trying to find it. What seed the Steelers were last year in the postseason. Pittsburgh was 3. I was right. They fell to the 3 seed and lost in the first round to the Browns. And for them to be considered a successful season, to me it has to be the divisional round. I understand they're playing the Chiefs in the first round, but this is still the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. They expect to be good every year. So my standards for them are a little bit higher than other teams. So the divisional round for me should be considered a successful season. Knock off the Chiefs, and to me that's a good year. Number 12, the Las Vegas Raiders, success. Despite all the off-field drama that this team had, you got to consider this season a success for the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr has had a good year for the most part. And I think that Rich Bisaccia has to be the next head coach full-time. They have to take the intern tag off of Rich Bisaccia. I think he's done phenomenal. So, successful year for the Raiders. Number 11, the Arizona Cardinals, success. Not many people thought this was a playoff team before the year because of the loaded division. I think many people thought that the Rams and the 49ers were the best 2 teams in this division and that the Vikings were going to be that last seed, or the Washington football team maybe, or the Saints. But not everyone had Arizona. They're in the playoffs, and they found a way to get in despite losing DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt most of the second half of the year. Because there was a point where it looked like that they might not make the playoffs, but here they are. Despite losing to the Lions, despite all that drama, to me the Cardinals season should be considered a success. Number 10, the New England Patriots, success, no doubt. In the playoffs with the rookie quarterback. I get it, it's the Patriots, and they should be held to higher standards. But next year, they're going to be held to higher standards because I think that there was some turmoil earlier in the year and before the season with the quarterback situation, but Mac turned out to be great. So success. Number 9, the Cincinnati Bengals. Success. You could argue that this is the team that's had the best season. Even if they don't win the Super Bowl, they have to be up there top 3 if they don't win the Super Bowl, which they probably won't. Joe Burrow, breakout quarterback of the year, MVP candidate perennially now, I think, going forward. Zach Taylor, I think, really proved himself. But if they're a disappointment next year and don't make the playoffs, then Zach Taylor's right back on the hot seat like he was in the beginning of this year. Number 8, the 49ers. To be determined. The reason why they're to be determined is because despite being as bad as they were a year ago, I think they went 4-12. They had a ton of injuries, and that was why they went 4-12. This is still the 49ers, and Kyle Shanahan, I think that they should be held to a higher standard. So I think they have to go to the divisional round, knock off the Cowboys for their season to be considered a success. Number 7, the Tennessee Titans. To me, that's a to be determined as well. This has been a perennial playoff team the last couple of years. I just think that they should build the higher standards because of that. They're getting Derrick Henry back. So to me, if they make the AFC title game, their season should be considered a success. Anything short of that is a disappointment, a failure. Number 6 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. To be determined. I think it's Super Bowl or bust. It's Tom Brady. If you have Tom Brady, it's always Super Bowl or bust. For me. With the exception of maybe last year's Bucs season, and they still won the Super Bowl. Number 5 is the Los Angeles Rams. To me, it's to be determined, and to me, it has to be Super Bowl. You have the team full of rock stars, and you got to be rock stars for them to be considered successful. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. They have to go to the Super Bowl for me to be a success. They still have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill on their team as far as I'm concerned. And Andy Reid's still the head coach. They should be Super Bowl or bust for me. Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. To be determined. The reason why the Cowboys are to be determined despite missing the postseason last year is because this is the Dallas Cowboys. They were expected to win the NFC East this year. To me, they have to go to the NFC title game for me to be their season to be considered a success. This is like the Steelers, except that they were expected to do more than the Steelers this year, and that's why I had the Steelers division round and the Cowboys NFC title game, because the Cowboys are a top 3 NFC seed. They won the NFC East, won it pretty convincingly, and you still have a roster full of great players. To me, it's NFC. They got to go to the NFC title game for me to consider the season a success. I know the Cowboy fans think it's Super Bowl or bust. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills. To me, this is Super Bowl or bust. They were in the AFC title game last year. Time to take the next step. And same for number 1, the Green Bay Packers, Super Bowl or bust. You know all the details. Both of those teams, the Packers and the Bills, are in the respective conference championships last year and lost. Alrighty, so that was it for the power rankings. And last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. This was a little harder than it's been the past few days. I'm going to go to college basketball. And I'm going to lay the 1.5 with Virginia over Virginia Tech. I just think Virginia is so much better than Virginia Tech. And I think that Virginia will lay it on them and potentially win by double digits. So I'm going to lay 2 units on Virginia minus 1.5 against Virginia Tech as my best bet of the day. All right, so that's it for today's show. Hopefully best bet goes to 8-0 in 2022. And tomorrow's show, we'll recap everything that goes on tonight and look ahead to everything tomorrow. News and notes, maybe one more activity, we shall see. Maybe NBA power rankings and my best bet of the day. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.